Hello and welcome to Celebrating Cinema, a podcast for the love of cinema. I'm your host, Laura Gommans, and I'm here with the man, the legend, the programmer at Lab 111, Tom Ooms.
Hi there.
Last week saw the release of Gia Coppola's The Last Showgirl, starring the wonderful Pamela Anderson. And it got us thinking, we've had quite a few triumphant comebacks in recent years. The industry is changing, and actors that were put on the sidelines for various stupid reasons are coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, I wasn't done. We're entering an age where your age isn't something to be embarrassed about. It's something that makes you a more interesting storyteller. Today, we're going to be talking about our favorite Hollywood comebacks. But first, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. Tom, what have you been watching?
I was a bit sick at home, so I decided to watch Wolves.
What is that again?
That's the film with Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
The new one?
Yeah.
I didn't
really
realize-
from when it's from, but it was...
I thought they were like talking about it, and then it's out?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like that was just
out.
like a...
And it's very... So I was watching it, and it's just a thoroughly mediocre film with Brad and George having fun, I guess. And for some reason, it really looks like... exactly like a David Fincher film.
Do you know who directed it?
It was directed by John Watts, the guy who directed Spider-Man Far From Home. And who came from nowhere, directed a film called Cop Car with Kevin Bacon, and then suddenly had this big-ass Marvel career.
Wow.
And then he wanted to make this as a passion project. Then Apple TV said online that they were happy with how it turned out, and potentially there was going to be a sequel. So Watts was like, oh, that's
But
great.
I have heard nobody talk about
And
this.
you know why? Because they just shelved it to streaming without him knowing that.
That's sad.
So they
Oh, no.
released it only on streaming on Apple TV because it was going to get a theatrical release. So everybody would at least know that this movie existed. And now it's a
Fart into
mediocre
space.
movie. Fart into space.
Fart into space. Jesus.
What's the last thing that you saw?
I kind of had the same thing. I wasn't sick at home, but I had like one of those mortifying hangovers. And I watched About a Boy because I thought that'd be a comfort movie, and it wasn't because I recently dated someone who was exactly like Hugh Grant in that movie. So the entire movie, I was just like, this motherfucker, I hope he dies. And then in the end, it's heartwarming because little Nicholas Hoult.
Is this by the same guy who directed and wrote Notting Hill?
Yeah.
Not Curtis Hanson. Richard Curtis. Oh,
Yeah, Richard Curtis. Yeah.
Okay.
I still think that movie holds up. I think it's adorable, but it does sell us a lie that these types of men change is getting personal once more. We're about a month on from the Oscars, and it was supposed to be her moment. Demi Moore was the unexpected darling of award season for her role in The Substance. She pulled off a clean sweep at other award shows in her category of Best Actress, and she was supposed to finally get her redemption arc. And then the Oscar goes to Mikey Madison for her role in Anora. Immediately, social media exploded with memes saying, this is just like The Substance. In case you haven't seen it, in The Substance, Demi's character is told that her TV career is over because she is too old and no longer believably fuckable. In a desperate moment, she takes the mysterious substance, which spawns a younger version of herself who ends up completely sucking the life force out of her. But to me, that's not what was happening when Demi lost to Mikey. The takeaway from The Substance isn't, oh, well, I guess the media is always going to prefer young, hot girls. To me, the message is, you should have been okay with your age because look at the fucked up shit that happens when you keep comparing yourself to 25-year-olds. It will literally kill you. And I feel like women in Hollywood are finally starting to embrace that. Demi seems totally happy where she is. At 62, she's definitely still believably fuckable, and that's not even relevant here. After being labeled box office poison after Striptease and G.I. Jane flopped in the 90s, she was banished to a lifetime of being cast as Miley Cyrus's mom in Disney Channel movies, which some say is a fate worse than death. And after all of that, she had the guts to take on a role where she gets to be ugly and gross and slimy and cracked, and by God that she put her back into it. And the film industry noticed. They gave her recognition. And she's not the only one who's going through a redemption arc. In the 90s, Pamela Anderson was unfortunately painted as not much more than a pair of giant boobs. Sometimes in a red bathing suit, sometimes dressed in leather, but always as the subject of vulgar, invasive headlines. Now she's mostly known as an activist, a kind-hearted advocate for self-love, as well as the star of Gia Coppola's new drama, The Last Showgirl, which came out last week. Or look at Michelle Yeoh, who spent decades as a hot babe in action movies before winning an Oscar at 60 for her role in Everything Everywhere All at Once. Looking at these examples, it feels like Hollywood is healing from the toxic culture created by people like Weinstein and the many, many powerful men that came before him. After decades of women being discarded after they age out of a certain marketable mold, a new wave of creators is standing up and wanting to do things differently. And it's not just women, but more on that later. This new wave of comebacks feels different because it's not about fitting back in. We're not talking about faded starlets like Norma Desmond trying to desperately reclaim the position they once held. It's reclaiming the narrative. It's about flipping the bird to the industry's garbage definition of what it means to be relevant and demanding something more. These actors are proving that there's a hunger for stories that reflect the complexity of life beyond 40, beyond being a mom or joining a book club. We love a good comeback because it reminds us that failure isn't final and that there's power and resilience. When an actor defies the odds and returns as who they are now and not as who they once were, it feels like we're all winning.
Yay.
Yay. Yeah, so I love a comeback because it is one of those things that feels like the closest we get in real life to the hero's journey, the reason we watch movies to begin with. You see this actor, you've grown up with them, you've seen them in all these things in the 90s, and then they lose it, and for various different reasons, but then they get it back, and it's so nice to watch.
Your little redemption arc.
I love a little redemption arc. So Tom, why do you think this is happening now? Why do you think there's so many comebacks for like older women, but also older men who have been cast from the industry that are having their little redemption arc?
You might like it, but I think the industry also kind of just digs it a lot. I think there's something, if it works, it garners awards.
Yeah.
At least if the performance is good, of course. But I mean, Demi Moore's performance in Substance is amazing.
Incredible.
Not saying that Mikey Madison's performance, let's not get into that
Mikey
debate. But
fully deserved it. Yeah.
I think the industry really enjoys it as well, to give people a second chance. You even see it like in awards season always. There's this sort of obsession with second chance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you haven't won your Oscar for Goodfellas? Well, we'll give it to you for The Departed.
Yeah.
That sort of fixing their own fucking mistakes or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it specifically comes to women, I mean, we'll get into the various examples of Hollywood actor comebacks. A lot of them through the past decade have been men.
Yeah.
Only now are we sort of finally, it's time to, it's been a long fucking time coming, right?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with like broader cultural changes. If you look at the post-Me Too era, that in Hollywood very literally means the post-Weinstein era.
Mm-hmm.
So all these women that were put on the bench basically to be like, oh, they don't want to like give me a blowjob, so they're blacklisted.
Yeah.
They got to like tell their stories and they got to come back. And I think it opened up a lot of conversations about ageism and sexism and like offering women a seat at the table, offering older women a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
We've had older actresses. They've been like Meryl Streep and Tilda Swinton, like they're around. But I think it's especially women who were really, really hot in their day. And that was their image of like, oh, that's the hot babe with the giant boobs or the whatever. They've had a hard time maintaining their status. And I feel like now we're getting to a point like, oh, actually, Demi Moore was really talented. Oh, actually, Pamela Anderson isn't a bimbo. She's a really smart person. And like,
it's not necessarily a comeback, but it's, I have to suddenly think of an actress that really fits in here due to what you mentioned about the Weinstein era is Salma Hayek.
mm-hmm.
The first part of her career is just being a bimbo, like in From Dusk Till Dawn or whatever, like she's there because she's hot.
Yeah.
And then she gets Weinstein to produce the Frida Kahlo movie that he completely destroys her for. She makes a beautiful film, but if you want to read a terrible story that's very interesting, you should look up the op-ed piece that she wrote during the Me Too era, and then what she describes as Harvey Weinstein saying, like, if you don't do this sort of semi-erotic dance scene with Ashley Judd, I'll break your kneecaps, like shit like that. Like he's literally said.
They should put that guy in jail.
Well, that's the least they could do. After that, her career completely dwindles. And then now suddenly she's sometimes popping up again. But she had a really hard time like refining her own image of not just being that thing that the industry made her out to be, like a pair of boobs, as you said.
Last couple of things, I remember she was like the wife in the hitman's bodyguard or some shit like that. Like, I hope she gets her comeback.
Yeah.
I think you have a couple of like favorite comeback things, because you were talking earlier when we were having lunch, you were talking about Tarantino and that he does this thing where he loves bringing
I think he's
back.
a director who is completely obsessed with doing this. And the most well-known ones are John Travolta for Pulp Fiction.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Oh man, they got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
Pulp Fiction was released in 94. Travolta at that time was completely out of favor. He made in the 70s Grease, Saturday Night Fever, but then he decided to make a sequel to Saturday Night Fever called Staying Alive, which completely bombed.
I never saw that.
You know that meme of, or that gif of him like dancing with all these women around him and he moving his hips really strangely? With this band in his hair?
Yeah.
That's from
80s.
Staying Alive.
Oh, right.
It's super 80s. Like it's a bit
Jamie
too
Lee Curtis,
80s.
right? Who's doing that?
Exactly, yeah.
More on her later.
And then in the early 90s, he made 3 films I remember very fondly, but completely suck. And that was a Look Who's Talking movies with Kirstie Alley, with them having a kid that could speak, or at least the audience could hear the baby speak. I don't know. They're terrible films, but they made 3 of them, of course. And then for some reason, Tarantino thought, I think the role of a hitman should be really cool and understated guy. Let's get John Travolta for this. I see something in him. Pulp Fiction completely revitalized his career. In the 90s, he did Face Off with John Woo and Nicolas Cage, and he had a Pulp Fiction. Hadn't that happened, he would have just slowly moved into obscurity, I guess. And then Tarantino did the same with Pam Grier, who was a 70s blaxploitation star that slowly sort of moved into obscurity, and then he cast her in Jackie Brown. He also cast Robert Forster in Jackie Brown as her love interest, also an actor from the 70s that at some point nobody really had heard of, and it reinvigorated his career. He starred in Breaking Bad and like many other films in the 90s. I absolutely love him as an actor, especially in Jackie Brown. He brings a lot of sort of warmth to that movie.
Tarantino's one director who loves doing this, but if we move it to present day, there's 2 boys that I love who love doing this as well, the Daniels. Because Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was like big homages to the comeback. Like, I feel like everyone in that movie, Michelle Yeoh, I mentioned her in the intro, she used to be like a Bond girl, an action star. She plays Evelyn, who's this like housewife. Kiwi Kwan, we all had a great time with him on the award circuit. He was, of course, known for being Short Round in Indiana Jones, and he was in Goonies. And then he just completely quit acting. For the longest time, he worked as a stunt coordinator behind the scenes. He was like, I don't know if I want to go back into acting. And then Crazy Rich Asians came out, and he felt inspired to get back into acting. He got an agent. And 2 weeks later, he landed an audition for this movie, and he landed the lead as Waymond.
Evelyn, I'm not your husband. I'm another version of him from another universe. I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
Across the multiverse, I've seen thousands of Evelyns. You can access all of their memories, their emotions, even the skills.
Which I think is so great. And it's really cool that they cast these 2 incredible, like, well-known actors, people that we have a relationship with, but then they cast them because they're really good at doing their own stunts, and that makes it so funny. Like, they're these like middle-aged people who work at this laundromat, and all of a sudden they like whip out a fucking weapon and they I thought that was a really cool choice. And then obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is also in that. And I think for her, that was also a comeback into doing credible shit.
Yeah.
Maybe not the first time, but like I feel like
also cast against type a bit because
Yeah.
she, for the longest time in the 90s, like, I mean, in True Lies, for instance, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, she plays this housewife, but then the most famous scene in that movie is that, oh, she's actually super pretty and really hot. And then her entire career has always been sort of focused on, or at least the industry has been focused on, that she's hot. And she plays this horrible, what is it, IRS secretary or something?
Yeah. She's
that looks
she's
way older than she looks in real
the
life.
tax lady.
The tax
I
lady,
remember
yeah.
seeing that for the first time, and like I don't watch trailers when I know that I want to see something. I was just like, wait, is that Jamie Lee Curtis? It just like freaked me out. But I love their style of filmmaking so much, and I love that they went for these choices of not, because first for the role of Evelyn, they were gonna go with a male lead in Jackie Chan.
Oh,
That's what they were gonna do initially, and then there's like naturally the story started progressing into like being more suited to a female lead. And then they found Michelle. I was like, we definitely have to flip the gender on this and make it a mom. I thought that was beautiful.
Jackie Chan. Now there's a man that needs to come back, also sadly for his political beliefs.
Woof. But yeah, in the same year that Michelle Yeoh and Kiwi Kwan both won their Oscars, there was another person who made a comeback, Brendan Fraser. His comeback was lovingly dubbed the Renaissance. I didn't know that. But obviously he was someone...
What's with the sans thing always? Like,
It's the sans.
It's the reconnaissance.
The reconnaissance works.
Wait, but is the reconnaissance also a comeback?
Yes, but more on that later. You're doing that thing
Okay.
where you're drifting. But yeah, Brendan Fraser obviously was a hunk in the 90s. He was in like Encino Man, George of the Jungle, Bedazzled, The Mummy,
Yeah.
and The Mummy Returns.
Yeah.
So many, and he had a shirt off or open most of the time, and we all had a good time with it. But then around like the early 2010s, late like maybe like 2008, he kind of left the industry because he was having a lot of health issues. He had to have a knee replacement. He had to have spinal surgery from doing all these stunts. And also,
he was doing all his own stunts in The Mummies. That was the entire thing.
Yeah.
Like, he almost broke his back. I think that was the...
He also had a terrible like Me Too situation. He ran into Philip Burke, who was the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and the host of the Golden Globes, basically. And he like groped him, and Fraser was like, no. And then he felt like he was blacklisted from the industry after that. And that's pretty bad. He spoke up about it. I think that's really, really fucking brave. The interview is really...
Yeah, the interview is really heartbreaking.
His like comeback interview, like when he starred in Darren Aronofsky's The Whale in 2022, he got a lot of press of like, oh, everyone like loved seeing his face again. And we were all so happy for him to be back. Darren Aronofsky saw something in him to do something that's a complete departure from anything he's ever done before. It's for both of us, I think, not a favorite movie, but I do like the fact that Aronofsky saw this thing in him and was like, this is a person that people actually care about, and we can use that fact to garner empathy for this character.
It's not one of my favorite films of all time, but I will say that I was really happy seeing him again.
Yeah.
He seems like a genuinely nice man.
Yeah, he seems like such a sweetie pie. And I think that award season was one where I just shed so many tears because like Kiwi Kwan and Brendan Fraser were both on this tour of like, we really never thought there would be a place for us again in this industry, and look at us now. And then they both won, and God, it was emotional for me, gotta say. We love hearing from you here at Celebrating Cinema, so let us know your thoughts, questions, and reviews. You can write to us or leave a voice memo at celebratingcinema@lab111.nl or via Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok. So in my intro, I spoke a lot about women and how they're having their comebacks, but then it also has to be mentioned that a lot of comebacks that have been happening over the last few years have been men, which is okay, which there's a place for men, and we love men. We love men. But yeah, I think for me, the first like big comeback story that I remember vividly was Robert Downey Jr. I think for me, like, it was very well known that he struggled with substance abuse and being a like general dick and having like legal issues. So he was basically banned from Hollywood. And then, yeah, he started kind of coming back with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and then Zodiac. But
Kiss Bang. Oh, I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
that was 2005. But then this motherfucker entered the MCU as Iron Man and then became like the third highest grossing actor of all time.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it's insane.
So that's like, that to me is the biggest turnaround from...
And it's like the most publicized one, right? I mean, like it's this...
That was in the tabloid era as well, where that was so heavily publicized. Because like early in his career, he got an Oscar nom for Chaplin in 92.
Oh yeah, of course. The Richard Attenborough film. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, Iron Man saved him. And I think he's just going to be riding that train forever because he's back in the MCU as Dr. Doom, I think he's going to be. I don't like MCU things. I'm very sorry. But I read that he's going to be back.
It's really odd. I think that, as I said earlier this day to you, I think it's bizarre that genuinely I'm happy that he's off of stuff. But really, Robert Downey Jr.'s career before the comeback is more interesting than when he returned as Iron Man. Also, when I now see him on like Comic-Con or stuff like that, it's like he's taken the persona that he used to have as an arrogant prick and has sort of merged that with the role of Tony Stark, who is, it's typecasting, an arrogant prick.
Yeah, you always has been.
And that's the end of the redemption arc, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that he should like be...
goody two-shoes.
A goody two-shoes and like a Buddhist monk now, but it's like... Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's made it his thing.
Yeah, it's because exactly. He made it his thing. Yeah, and it's funny also because he's now the highest grossing actor of what?
Well, do you want to guess who's number one?
Bruce?
No.
Oh, Leo?
No.
Oh,
it's Samuel L. Jackson.
What?
Yeah, I love that for him. Number two is Scarlett Johansson for people who aren't her best friend.
Oh God. Okay, but it's all MCU people.
It's all MCU people.
It's like all these multiple year
and this
contracts.
Is not the highest earning. This is the highest grossing. So like they've been in the most movies that made the most money.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Snakes on a plane, baby.
Snakes on a plane. I bought at least 10 tickets to see that. I would not be me if I did not briefly jump into Nicolas Cage corner.
Ah, nice.
Do you have like a bumper for that? Like a little theme song? Nicolas Cage corner, she's back.
This corner represents my individuality and my belief in personal freedom.
So, Nicolas Cage, famous comeback story. Obviously,
how many comebacks has this man had, really?
Oh, it never stops.
No, exactly.
He's like edging. He's edging a comeback forever. And he's always coming back. And then also the next day, maybe not. So we all know what happened.
And he's the only one who makes his own problems. So it's not the industry. It's him choosing a movie and then needing to decide like to do Dream Scenario again.
100. So basically what happened, huge actor in the 90s, Face Off, won Best Actor for Leaving Las Vegas. And then in 2013... the tax scandal happened. He had a $6.2 million tax bill, and then it was a big oopsie because he didn't have it. So what do we do then?
Wait, this was also due to the fact that he had bought a dinosaur skull.
Among other things. He's not very responsible with his spending. He loves a cool jacket. He loves a dinosaur skull.
Snakeskin leather jacket, probably.
The man loves to spend money. And I'm personally kind of grateful that this happened because it made him make the most insane career choices. I think after he had to pay up that tax bill, he started taking every job. I feel like if you could afford the day rate, you could have Nicolas Cage in your movie.
Is this
no
before
problem.
or after Ghost Rider?
I think this Ghost Rider, he was always making outrageous choices, by the way. So there's no reason.
Sure,
not everything is because of this. But I'm talking shit like Left Behind, which is one of the only movies I ever gave a half star. It's a Christian movie. It's a Christian TV movie about the rapture that happens like at an airport on a plane. This man's like trying to get home to his family, and then the rapture happens. And it's batshit crazy. I'm not even joking. At the end
Is
of this,
he any good in this?
Of course, he's always good. He's always giving it his all. But at the end of the movie, they kick a little person out of the plane.
Wait.
Physically kick. And it's one of those things where it's like, I can't believe I'm watching this. This is so...
This is a Christian film.
For a Christian film. Yeah, but he was an evil little person. Oh he wasn't Christian. Wait, how did he survive the... It doesn't matter. I digress.
Okay.
Absolute flop
Get
era.
off my plane.
But then, Panos Cosmatos comes along and he goes, "Sir, I have a thing for you, and it's going to be Laura's favorite movie, Mandy."
Yeah.
Not my favorite, but it's definitely up there in the top 10. And then, crazy enough, he had a run where since Mandy, every single year, he's made a movie that's gotten over 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. Pig, Color Out of Space, the Croods, which, it's different.
Mm.
He did a voice on that. Pig, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Dream Scenario, and then this year, The Surfer and Arcadian. So that's a pretty decent comeback, I'd say.
And to hear more on that, you can listen to our full episode of Nicolas Cage.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Find a link in the description.
Producer Elliot doing his producing job. We love to see it. That sounded really sarcastic, Elliot. I don't mean that at all. We love you so much.
And that wasn't sarcastic either.
No.
I never thought about this. He actually might be the comeback master.
He is, yeah, because it's with him. It comes in waves. He's always coming back, and then the next day he's like down in the dumps again.
His whole brand has come back, right? Because
Yeah.
I think his whole brand is that he's just this enigma that you can never grasp him. He's like, oh, you think you know what I'm gonna do? You think you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do Willy's Wonderland, dude.
I'm gonna do Renfield.
Like including Renfield. Everything he does, he commits to, and he goes balls to the walls, and he's never bad at anything.
No, this is a weird parallel, but there's a documentary about Rutger Hauer, and there's an interview with him in that documentary. It's while he's making a movie called, I think, Soccer 3, The Rise of the Football Manager. Again, for the bin, specifically at the gas station movie.
If you want to know that reference, listen to the episode about The Room.
Rutger Hauer was in a lot of, or Rutger Hauer, for the
Rutger
people who
Hauer.
constantly are going to respond that I don't speak English, Dutch English, whatever.
Paul Verhoeven.
Paul Verhoeven. He was in so many crap films. He was in Blade Runner and he was in amazing movies, but he was also in like shit movies like Blind Fury, which I really
He needed
like.
to pay the rent.
He needed to pay the rent. But then this documentarian asked him, like, Rutger, why are you starring in this film? There must be better scripts that you could do. And then, because he's also this enigma, why does he do the work that he does? And then he just looks in the camera and he says, I just really like to work. I just like to work. I like to be on set. I like to be with people who are making a film. And whatever it is, I'll do my utmost best.
And, there's nothing wrong with that. Moving it back to women, someone I would really love to talk about is my girl, Jennifer Coolidge. Wow, should I do the rest of this entire podcast as Jennifer Coolidge?
So the audience must know by now that we are good friends. And when we went on holidays...
Wait, you think we're good friends? Sorry.
Oh my God! I just walked into that trap. When we were on holidays together, you did this a lot.
Because it was right after White Lotus came out. Wow, these are some high-end plates. I can't stop doing it. Anyway, J. Cool, as we love to call her colloquially.
Jennifer Coolidge.
We loved J. Cool. So she played
Stifler's mom.
She played Stifler's mom in American Pie when she was only like 34 or something when she did that, by the way. Then she did Legally Blonde in 2001. Everybody loved her. Then also my personal favorite, Best in Show.
The dog show movie.
But I think the problem with Jennifer Coolidge is that she's not necessarily a versatile person. She does that one thing, and she does
that really well.
She does that really well. But I do understand that like 3 movies in a row where she kind of did the same thing, people were kind of like, okay, we know the shtick, whatever. Then I'm not entirely sure what happened in between. I should have done better research, but it doesn't even matter because we're having a good time. But she came back in White Lotus. And everybody remembers her and loves her. And she had this amazing Jennifer Coolidge-essence.
Coolishans.
The Coolishans. So she did 2 seasons of White Lotus. I thought she did an incredible job on that as Tanya. I miss her this season. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool thing to see with several different actresses. For example, Winona Ryder as well, who had an incredible career, stole some shit, went to jail, and then is the mom in Stranger Things.
Hold up.
Oh, Elliot. Okay, Gen Z. So sometimes we do need to do a little interlude for Elliot, who's our resident Gen Z. Winona Ryder I want a free Winona t-shirt. Winona Ryder was arrested somewhere in the 90s for stealing a whole bunch of shit from a department store.
Yeah. And it's on video.
You
can look this up.
And that...
Just because?
I think,
Was she
I
on
think for
hard
the thrill of
times,
it.
or-
No, I think she had money aplenty. Maybe she's talked about this. I don't know. That's a thing that I remember in my childhood, that there were like free Winona t-shirts and stuff. She got caught stealing. She's certainly done things after that, but I think we all kind of forgot about her. And now she's back in Stranger Things, and that led to her being in Beetlejuice.
And Beetlejuice nicely moves into Michael Keaton.
Do you want to do a little Beetlejuice impression or something?
No.
Okay.
Say it.
So, yeah, obviously Michael Keaton, I think he started on SNL. Like, he started as a comedian. Maybe not on SNL, but
Really?
he started as a comedian, I think.
Oh.
And then obviously gained a ton of fame with Beetlejuice as well as Batman.
Yeah. The OG Batman.
The 1989.
Well, sorry, Adam West. Adam West?
I wouldn't say the original Batman, but you know,
wouldn't?
same vintage as me. Yeah, but then after those, he kind of struggled with typecasting, and he took on a bunch of really weird roles. Like one I watched recently, Jack Frost.
Oh my God.
Have you seen it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of those
Jesus, yeah.
movies where I had to like check if I wasn't having a stroke. It's so ridiculous.
Is this about the snowman?
It's the snowman.
Yeah. Scariest snowman
He's
ever.
the dad, and he dies, and he's missed by his son, and the son builds a snowman, and then no apparent reason, he is then the snowman, and it's really fucking weird. But yeah, of course, what happened after playing Batman and everything, he fittingly reemerged with Birdman.
We had it all. You were a movie star, remember?
Who was this guy? He used to be Birdman.
I like that poster.
You wrote this adaptation?
I did, yeah.
And you're directing and starring in your adaptation. That's ambitious.
Are you afraid people will say you're doing this play to battle the impression that you're a washed-up comic strip character?
And that movie really played with the idea that he was Batman. It's a really cool, like, it pretends to be a one-taker. It has this, like...
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck.
The drum score, which is really unnerving.
Yeah.
And that earned him an Oscar nomination.
And it stars my twin brother, Edward Norton. So
You don't look that much alike, Tom. Okay, let us know in the comments.
let us know in the comments if I
Do
really
you
look like
think
Edward Norton.
Tom looks that much like Edward Norton that he has to make it his
People
whole
always-
personality.
No, this is what people always tell me. Jesus.
But I want to talk about Michael Keaton for a second because he did Birdman. But after that, yeah, I guess Beetlejuice as well. But like, has he really had a career resurgence? Would you say?
No, I don't think so.
No.
He's been like in small. There was this interesting Hitman movie with him having amnesia.
What? An interesting Hitman movie?
But this is like also just a small film that gets released and everybody forgets about. I think it would be really strange to not mention another movie by Darren Aronofsky with another comeback, which was Mickey Rourke in The Wrestler.
Right.
Because I think for me, at that specific time, that was like the most talked about one. I remember that when that film came out, and like Mickey Rourke was just a guy who
And I like
quit
his,
acting.
and his
got
face was different. I'm saying
That's
that.
an understatement. Yeah. Well, I mean, his face was fucked up in the sense that he just got into boxing after some time in the 80s or in the 90s and then faded out as an actor and just became a professional boxer.
And had to do so much like reconstructive surgery.
Exactly.
It looks-
And then his face got completely like the wrestler is, well, the funny thing is that in that movie, you see him wrestle with, I think, also the inner demons of his real life, because he's almost playing himself really there.
Mm-hmm.
As a guy who gets too old to get into the ring. And I think that everybody had thought that Mickey Rourke was also somebody big into substance abuse and alcohol, that like he was just gonna fade out.
This is maybe an interesting pattern that I'm noticing here, is that Mickey Rourke came back for The Wrestler, and then after that, kind of crickets.
This is a thing. The industry likes to, or maybe filmmakers like to give people second chances. We like second chances. But the thing is,
and
that
then they can pat themselves on the back. Like, look, we brought him back.
But then it doesn't necessarily, it's not the golden ticket to like the complete restart of your career.
Right.
We talked about John Travolta, but let's be real, after Pulp Fiction, his career also completely eventually evaporated into nothingness.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is an issue there that even if people do get second chances,
I think the best case for this is that we've talked about so far is Michelle Yeoh, because after Everything Ever All at Once, she's now done Wicked, and she's doing another one. You were talking about something else she was doing.
she's in the Star Trek movie.
She's in Star Trek movie. So I feel like she's like consistently getting work. Obviously, Wicked for Good is coming out at the end of this year. So those are some pretty big ones.
Do you think it's the equivalent of like artists coming back to do a reunion tour or something like that?
Maybe.
Like
That's a really good point, Elliot. I really feel like...
Because it feels like a marketing trick almost.
But then it's almost like this sort of flash of nostalgia that can never be sustained. Nostalgia can never be sustained in the sense that you want to be remembered of something, but if it then manifests itself back into the current reality, then it easily overstays its welcome. Sorry, this sounds terrible because it's about people, but I think maybe it would be, because honestly, for instance, we started with The Substance. I would love Demi Moore to get more parts, and get into more interesting roles. But what will the industry really do with her?
Yeah, because I think the whole thing with this comeback thing is the conclusion of the thing is that you need to come back and reinvent yourself. Okay, she did that. That was an insane role. But what's next for her? I just hope that she doesn't end up, falling back into like playing moms and playing like, so like what would be interesting?
Or going into striptease too. You
right,
know?
yeah.
Like,
but I also argue that they're not necessarily reinventing themselves. They're being asked to play like a shade of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why they're being drawn back into it, because...
A shade that we haven't seen.
Yeah, but still based either on their real story or how they've been treated or how they were portrayed in the
Last
past.
Showgirl as well. Like Pamela Anderson, she is playing a showgirl.
Yeah.
So there needs to be this, remember her! Remember him! And, it's the same thing with Travolta in Pulp Fiction, really. He brings back that cool charm of, remember him being a cool guy. And then... But then when he gets thrust into the role of this weird-ass sort of cyber hacker heist dude in Swordfish, you're like, who the fuck is that dude again? It's a very fine balance. It might be something that is really hard to sustain. And the odd thing is that through this all, there is Meryl Streep. The woman who has never had a lull in her career, really, who has never been up or down or out or in. She's always been there as this sort of bizarre. And I think it has to do, in a sense, also with the fact that she is a bit middle in everything.
Yeah.
She's not extremely hot. She's not that specific role. She's not that specific. She
plays it all really well. She plays the Miranda Priestley Devil Wears Prada thing really well, but she also plays a loving mother really well. And I think she's so transformative, or she's so like malleable in her parts that you can really stick her in anything as long as she has a good agent that finds the right roles for her. That work, because she's made some fucking duds as well. But like it doesn't really matter. People don't judge her for it because she is, in the end, Meryl fucking Streep.
Yeah.
And she's a legend. I think we've talked about a ton of comebacks, and there were so many more in my notes, but do let us know which ones you love and ones that we may be missed out on. I want to end this on a final discussion point. Tom, who would you like to see make a comeback?
It kind of relates to what we just discussed about the whole nostalgia thing. I think for me, there's the nostalgia harks back to I want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger again.
Oh.
But then I know that makes no sense because he cannot be he's tried to be Terminator again, which was horrendous. So he can't do that. And then what do I want from him? Do I want him then to return as this sort of soft version of himself?
Do you want Jingle All the Way? Do you want Junior? What do you want?
What do I really want there? But there is the nostalgia of that iconic presence, the Austrian oak of returning to, I don't know, something. I know he's happy in his house with his donkeys and probably won't return.
So for me, the one person I'd love to see actually come back is Lindsay Lohan. And hear me out, because I know that she's doing her comeback thing right now. She's doing Freakier Friday. There's going to be a sequel. She's doing like a bunch of ghastly Netflix movies. But the thing that she's doing is that thing that makes us all really sad. It's like, remember the days when I was a kid and you were a kid and you weren't being crushed under the weight of corporate capitalism? When's the last time you were happy? Was it when you were watching Freaky Friday? Let's have more of that. Distraction. And that's what she's doing. And it's making me so sad. And I want a good part for her. I want her to do something interesting. I want her to get the Aronofsky treatment or the Daniels treatment or the A24 treatment to see what else is there. Because I do think she's a very talented woman, but she's like lowering herself. Lindsay, please listen to me. She's lowering herself to these like straight to video things. And it's making me sad.
She's tried to sort of come out of the rut.
She did Irish Wish and she did some like other Christmas movie about...
She still is a bit in the Robert Downey Jr. Less Than Zero. Completely... She's in that zone that she's still probably seen as this loose cannon, this Britney Spears dancing.
She had a weird phase there for a minute. Yeah. But she seems back and she seems healthy and happy and rested and well balanced and maybe on her meds. I don't know, but like it seems to be everything seems to be going really well for her. And I would love for her to do something. Wow, she's done 3 of those Netflix Christmas movies so far, by the way. I wonder she needs to get out of that contract.
I want to see The Parent Trap Untrapped. The Parent Trap Freed.
Literally, the only sequel I'd pay to see is Parent Trap. Because I want to know how those girls are doing. Their parents fucking separated them at birth. They wanted to divorce. It's like, oh, we have twins. You take one. I take one. Raise her in England. Raise her in America. We hate each other. And then see how that goes. Like, imagine your parent lying to you your entire life, finding out at camp that you have a twin. Like, that, the fucking therapy bill.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
We combine the comeback of Lindsay Lohan in The Parent Trap 2 or The Parent Untrapped, Parent Trapped Freed with the return of another child star.
Who?
Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, that was my other suggestion. Bring Kieran in the mix. Get it.
Oh, you do Parent Trap with Kieran and Macaulay.
Yes.
You see, there are so many people to still
Hollywood
dig up from.
Listen to us.
We're here.
So I think we cracked it.
We cracked the code.
Yeah.
Call us. We'll reinvigorate your career.
Join us for our next Celebrating Cinema Film Club on the 24th of April here at Lab 111, where we'll be screening Everything Everywhere All at Once to celebrate the many glorious comebacks that it gave us. Tickets for that are in the show notes. Also, if you got excited hearing us talk about Nicolas Cage, we did a whole episode on him a while ago, so listen to that one. The link to the episode is also in the show notes. Stay connected with us at Celebrating Cinema and Lab by following at Lab111 on Instagram and Letterboxd. If you love what we do, support us by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us climb the ranks of the podcast charts. And don't forget to check the show notes for all the films mentioned, bonus info, and ticket links. This was a Lab 111 production, edited and produced by Elliot Bloom, with music from Hugo Emertzal and artwork from Studio FFF.